All right. Welcome to Student Written Plays 2020 interview with the genius mind himself.
Wow, Julian Carrasco or Julian Carrasco. I prefer it
Yes.
either way.
Cool. All right. And to start things off with, first, I wanted to ask you, what's your story?
I I didn't get into theater until I got to Cal Poly actually. I think I was really into voice acting too. Like I still am, but I've been exploring, like because I've been introduced to theater, the theater world. I've been a lot more interested in different aspects of theater, like not just acting, but um, assistant stage manager, just working behind the scenes and set designing. Like I, taking principles and practices, I'm really interested in set designing now.
Wow.
And voice acting. I think ever since I was a little kid, I used to like to imitate things I heard. So, like, I remember there was this one instance where, like, my aunt or my tia um, had this very distinct laugh, and I loved. I imitated it once from my dad, and he's like, "Oh my god, you should show her. She probably thinks it's funny." And I remember I did it for her, and she laughed with the same way that I copied it. And I don't know why I always go back to that moment or that memory, and I that's kind of the basis on my acting and voice acting.
Yeah, for your specific piece, uh, what was your writing process like? Like, how long did it take to formulate the story and whatnot?
So, this one is interesting because it took a while for me to actually get it all together. So, it's really weird how it started and how it ended cuz the way it started was I started watching American Horror Story on Netflix because I love horror. Even though I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. I kind of like I like scaring myself with horror movies and shows. I don't know why, but the main chunk of There Is No Again came from this exercise we did in Bernardo's playwriting class, where he asked us to list a bunch of occupations and titles. So like a nurse, a grocery store clerk, stuff like that, or man, woman, child, orphan. So two of those that came up were a widow and an orphan, and I was, for some reason, those two words connected to me. And I think it was part of Bernardo's process for that exercise too. He said, okay, so choose one or two people and like try to write stuff about them, like maybe how they're feeling about the pandemic or how they're feeling about racism. So I think what ended up happening was I wrote the widow responding to the quarantine and to COVID, and then the orphan I had him respond to racism. And I was like, I need to marry these two together, so to say, in a show or in a scene. I was like, there's something here. I don't know why. A widow and an orphan. I always wanted to write two people with different perspectives and different problems in their lives coming together and kind of just talking it out, or just venting about how they feel at that moment. And so once I had that idea in my head, I'm like, okay, that's it. That's what I'm writing for this class. That's what I want. I want this. So the writing process itself was actually really, really, really hard. Only because of the subject matter. That of losing a husband or a loved one due to this scary thing that we've been living with for months at that point, and we just had no idea what was going to happen. And then a person who died because of racism, because of the way they looked and the way they held themselves. I was like,
Yeah.
this is literally a a huge part of like America's history, and it's still such a large problem, and it's really, at this point, it's gone from disappointing to appalling. Just just awful that we still have to talk about race and talk about tolerance and intolerance, and how things still have to be better.
Do you see yourself writing more plays in the future, or like of anything, or of any genre or anything?
I definitely see myself writing. Uh, I don't know. To me, it doesn't really matter what it becomes, whether, because I've definitely thought about like, oh, I kind of want to write stories, like a novel, a book, or I think I used to draw. I used to draw a lot and kind of connect those stories.
What is it like to hear actors read your work aloud, and at the same time, what is it like to perform written works of your peers back from school?
I still remember that first like real rehearsal where I think it was like the second table read or read through, where Bernardo kind of, the director kind of just stopped us and like, okay, what do you think this means? Or like, think about this. So when we get to the next rehearsal, we can work more on that. I still remember like getting anxious and hearing, because I was like, oh my god, I'm hearing my work read, and I'm gonna hear uh, not only my professor of the class that I wrote this play for, but the director as well. Someone who's been writing, directing, and acting for years. Like it just, it was exciting, but also really nerve wracking at the same time. So I was like, oh, I wonder what he has to say. I wonder what he has to say. And then hearing the words spoken aloud. I remember, I think one night I teared up a bit because I was like, oh my god. I thought to myself, like, this is a lot more impactful than I originally anticipated. Like, I just hearing, like, Omar's monologue, I was like, wow. I I
Yeah.
really felt some type of way just a few months ago. And now it's, people are going to be hearing something that I wrote, something that is really raw and emotional from me. It just, it's almost like a dream come true in a sense, because it's
Yeah.
like I've never, I don't think I've ever had any platform where anything I've written or drawn or said has ever like been up to show like an audience, you know. And I think it was such a weird feeling too, to hear it being spoken and then immediately like dissected, and and hearing you and Kimberly's and Bernardo's opinions, and just like what you thought, like with every new like opinion, or like, oh, what do you think of this, I kind of smiled and had goosebumps. I was like, wow, that's like either they were on the money, or oh, that's something I never thought about before. Because or at least for me, I know like a lot of these writers, um in the pieces that I'm in, there's almost this sense of a new sense of urgency and wanting to do it correctly. They're new and no one's performing them. You are the first one to be performing this
Oh
particular
yeah.
piece, so it's yeah, again, I think I had that same like anxiety. Like, yes, I'm excited to do this, but I'm also really nervous because I hope I'm doing this right. I hope this is at least close to what this person wanted, what this playwright wanted. I would say theater is is life. I know that sounds really general and broad, but theater is literally an imitation of life. And I think more people should make an effort to go see plays when we are able to again. They should definitely go out and see more plays because what you're seeing on stage probably couldn't be replicated again. I think theater gives us a platform to talk about stuff that we're not comfortable with. This is this will be inspiring in some way because I'm definitely inspired by everything
Yes.
that we've seen and done for this show, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of people when you see it. So please go see it.
You
It's
watch
going to
it.
be absolutely great.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So watch it. You better.